Welcome to this video in our marketing and sales series, and this one's entitled Customer Psychology. Now, we're not going to be going into really deep dives about what brings in customers and what are they going through and trying to figure them out by their DISC profile or some other kind of personality quick sketch to try to figure out how to interact with this person. Instead, we're going to go over how to maybe get to the bottom of what a customer is really wanting by just going through some very basic foundational things. So let's go ahead and start this off by, again, pulling up this thing called the persona, which is kind of what's also called an empathy map. And it's all the different things that customers are thinking, feeling, what they're seeing in their environment, what other people are saying and doing, what is it they're hearing, what are the main pains, what are their main gains, like what are they trying to avoid, what are they trying to accomplish. By really diving deep into this whole thing and trying to map out your typical customer, you'll get a better understanding for who they are and kind of generally where they're coming from. However, this isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. You're going to have people coming with a variety of personalities, as well as just what their mindset is, their experiences, and so forth when it comes to dealing with you and your company, in this case, a dental office. So the very first thing we're going to talk about when we visit with a patient is wanting to find out, well, what brings them in? And it's just by simple questions, asking, okay? Asking the patient what it is that they're concerned about, or what it is that brings them in, or what it is they want to accomplish will further open the door to a better dialogue that will help maybe find a way that the two of y'all can work together and try to accomplish what they want. And if you can do it for them, of course, within reason. So how do you know what they want? You just simply ask. Ask the patients questions to find out where they're coming from. Don't assume that you know what they want. Asking is a more efficient and effective way of getting to a decision, learning about this customer, learning about this patient, so that they can finally arrive at a decision on which way they want to go. I mean, they're in your office for a reason, so now is trying to just find out what's the best fix for them. It's also by asking them a question, you're giving them space so they may talk themselves about the situation. You may find a lot of times they just kind of talk themselves kind of into what it is. Up until that point, they really haven't a chance to kind of get clear on what they want to accomplish. But by you kind of guiding them through this process of asking them some very good questions, it will kind of allow them to kind of figure out where they want to land, and they'll just a lot of times just land themselves where they think they should be. Now, here's some of the questions to ask. The very basic ones are very open-ended and allows them to start talking. Something like this. What are your thoughts? Well, what concerns do you have? Or what's your thinking at this point? Okay, this really opens the door. You don't know what they're going to say, and so now you're going to hear what it is. I mean, they're going to kind of tell you what's going on in their mind. What you don't want to do is do not ask, well, do you have any questions? Okay, that question really has been so overused that people just automatically respond with no. It's just like when you go into a store, let's just say a clothing store, and a salesperson comes up and says, well, can I help you find anything? You say, no, just looking. I mean, that just seems to be the typical thing. It's kind of like when you meet someone and say hi, and they say, nice to meet you. I mean, it just seems to be this back and forth little volley of verbal exchange that people have developed, especially when it comes to this question. It says, do you have any questions? In my office, I make sure that everyone realizes don't say that. That's kind of a lazy question. And it's better to try to be more inquisitive by asking one of these other types of questions up here, just trying to inquire what are their thoughts? What's concerning you? It kind of prods them into actually opening up and start talking. Okay, now how about this for a situation? Imagine this. The patient comes in. They have a broken molar, and you know that the tooth needs a crown. There's a rough edge that's sharp to their tongue, yet this patient seems kind of reluctant to move forward. The question you should be thinking to yourself is, well, I wonder why they're reluctant. I mean, it's quite obvious that they have a broken tooth that's causing them discomfort. You've recommended a reasonable fix for it. So why is it that they're not just saying, okay, let's just get it done? Why are they holding back? Well, if you've been in this business long enough, you kind of heard some of these main things. It could be that they're concerned about the cost. They want to know, well, how much is my insurance going to cover, if they cover any of it at all? They may have a fear of pain. They may wonder, well, how long is this going to take? Because they don't have the time today to do that. They're not comfortable with maybe you, the doctor, or this entire office. Maybe they had a bad experience before with crowns and they don't want a repeat performance. Maybe they're concerned how's it going to look? Or maybe they've heard somewhere along the way they've never had a crown before, but they just heard that crowns are bad. So you tell them they need a crown. Could it be any one of these? Sure, it could be, but what do which one is it? Well, don't ask. Don't assume. Don't assume that you know it's probably one of these. More than likely, yes, it probably will be this. But until you know, you don't know. So why don't we do this instead? Why don't we go ahead and ask them? And in this case, in this example, you ask, well, tell me, what are your thoughts? The patient's response is, well, I travel a lot and I'm concerned that my temp might fall off. There you go. Now you know. When someone comes in with this specific situation, they're concerned about a temp coming off, I can tell them, well, I can tell you what I can do. While you're wearing the temp, I'll put it in with permanent cement. The only downside is when you come in, it might take me a little extra time to remove the temporary, but that way you won't have to worry about it coming off. You see, their concern was it falling off while they're on a plane or out of town or wherever they're going to go. But now I've resolved that by telling them how I can fix it. They're still going to get a crown. It's still going to cost the same. It's still going to take the same amount of time. But because they were concerned about a temp falling off, now that I know that, I can address it, maybe modify the treatment a little bit so that they can finally get what it is that they want and they'll feel much better moving forward with it. Now, notice how asking, do you have any questions to this type of situation really wouldn't be ideal. So that's just kind of it with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back up to this for just a moment. If you say, do you have any questions? Again, like I said, it's overused, but if plus, if the patient has any questions after your explanation, the patient either feels stupid by asking a question because you've already, they think, done a thorough job in explaining it, and now they just don't understand it, or they just don't want to hear you re-explain it, and so they just kind of, don't worry about it. I don't have any questions. So again, I know I kind of went back to this one again, but I hear it all the time with staff and probably with some doctors who just have a default to this. Do you have any questions? Stay away from that question. It would not have helped you in this situation. All right, let's move on to the next thing. There are two major customer concerns when they're trying to make a quasi-major decision. Think about yourself when you make a decision. Do you wrestle with these two things? You want to know, well, will buying this solve my problem or solve the problem I'm trying to fix? Or will buying this be a mistake? Will I regret it in some way? So let's dive into these two major categories of what patients might be wanting to think about or what they're wanting or what their concerns are about making a decision. Will it solve the problem? Okay. First of all, you don't even know what the patient's perception of the problem is unless, of course, you ask. Again, by asking, you'll be able to try to find out what that is. So what it is that the patient's wanting to do, you'll be able to do that. Are they trying to look for something to chew with that's strong? Are they looking for cosmetics? Are they looking for something that's mercury-free? Are they looking for something that's the lowest cost option? You simply don't know what will solve, or what it is that they're wanting to solve their problem. Or they're wondering if your fix is going to do it. And then when you're asking these questions, it's important to remember to remain agreeable. You want to be easy to do business with. You also are kind of co-diagnosing. You're kind of being a guide along the way. It's kind of like the example I used earlier. The patient who travels a lot, I'm helping guide them through their decision making so that we can somehow do this treatment that will kind of fit and address their primary concern. And then, of course, you're asking questions in a way that still puts you in the spot of being the authority figure. After all, you are the guiding them through this process, and they need to feel that you are the right person for the job. Now, the other main thing that they're concerned about is, will they be making a mistake? You guys probably have heard of buyer's remorse. All of us are concerned, if I buy this, is it somehow am I going to regret it later? Do they think that they can get the problem solved better somewhere else? Now, I say better. Maybe it's cheaper. Maybe it's faster. Maybe it's something else. They don't know if they could get it better somewhere else. Or they don't know if there's a different product that they don't know about. They don't know, well, maybe just a filling would do it. Or maybe this thing I heard about called an onlay will fix it. Or maybe I need a crown. Or maybe instead of, they don't know what they need. And so they just kind of wonder if there was an alternative way of fixing their problem. You've offered an opinion. You've given them that choice. Maybe you've given a couple of options, but they just don't know what else might be out there that they could be missing out on. They also want to know what kind of mistake would this be and if it would be a disruption to their life. Will be making this purchase displace something else that's a priority to them? Let's say they've been saving up for something, a new, I don't know, oven at their house. I'm just making up stuff. And now all of a sudden, now they have this dental work that needs to be done. And, they'd have to say no to this oven, but they have to say yes to they don't know if they're going to be displacing something. So they don't know if they're making a mistake when they're looking at the priorities of their life. Also, they want to know their person at home, their spouse or partner. They might be concerned that they would be upset with them for making this purchase decision. So this is also a concern that people have that's kind of running in the back of their mind. And the third one is of wondering if whether there's going to be a mistake is a confused customer. A confused customer does not buy. The customer doesn't understand something or they feel overwhelmed. No, just do not continue just giving more information. Instead, focus on trying to simplify. Follow the path of simplicity in order to have them better understand. More data isn't going to kind of clear up this confusion. It might actually make things worse. So try to dumb it down or make it more streamlined and simplified so it has a way for them to better understand, because nobody wants to march off and spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on something and then realize later that they kind of made a mistake because they didn't quite understand what was going on. So again, the two major concerns that people wrestle with is, will it solve the problem and will it be a mistake? This final section we're going to talk about is called the price myth. It's so often, many of us think that it all comes down to money. That's the only thing that really matters. It's the thing that, is going to be it. Again, this is a lazy way of thinking, because if you're not the low-cost person, you may throw up your hands and say, well, there's nothing I can do about that. It's just, that's the way it is. The customers are always going to pick the lowest price thing. And I'll show you some examples of why that's not the case. We'll start with something simple. Now, this is only a few bucks, but people buy Starbucks instead of McDonald's coffee, and when it costs quite a bit more to get something from Starbucks as opposed to a fast food place like McDonald's. But again, people get it for their reasons. This isn't a money decision. But why don't we go ahead and move up the scale on something else? What if you're going to go buy tires for your car? This isn't a status symbol. This isn't anything. This is a simple commodity of putting something on your car that you're going to drive around on. Now, Michelin tires cost more than Bridgestone. But isn't it funny that Michelin's number one in tire sales, they also occupy 15% of the tire market, and Bridgestone comes in at number 2, and they have 14% of the tire market. Those are the two big major heavy hitters when it comes to tires, but what the Michelin's cost more compared to the Bridgestone. So if price was the only thing that mattered, explain to me then why Michelin outsells Bridgestone. And we'll use another example here, Peloton versus Bowflex. These are both bikes. They look very similar in these pictures. I think they kind of get the same job done. Why would someone pay more than double for a Peloton when they can get something that's very, very similar for half the price? That's a Bowflex. Yet they sell a lot of Pelotons for some reason. I don't know how many Bowflexes they sell, but this is the one that everybody knows is the Peloton. Yet it's the one that costs more. So the point of that is that price, the lowest price, isn't always the thing that wins. So when you are doing your work, your dental work, or whatever it is, you have to know that the product that you're selling, you're charging the fee that is about right for where it should be, given the quality and the convenience and all the things that go into your product. So don't always think low price wins. Now, price is not the issue. It's whether the customer thinks your product will give them the results for their reasons. So how do you know what their reasons are? Go back to the beginning. You have to ask them, what it is that they're wanting. And as you listen, you can start to collaborate with them so that you can resolve their issue. Just like the example I used earlier with the person who travels a lot. I asked, listened, and then we collaborated to kind of try to find out how best to do it. Price didn't even come up in that one example that I was using. It was all about trying to get their problem addressed and addressing their primary concern about the whole thing. So, in summary, know your customer by asking questions. Also know that your two major concerns that customers wrestle with is that they want to know, will your solution solve their problem? And if they move forward with it, will it be a mistake? And then also realize that it's not just about price. All right. Thank you.